Hi, Facebook family and friends. Suzette Martinez Valderas here, your Republican candidate for state assembly. I popped on really quickly last night. Thank you to everybody who could join me. Just because yesterday it was officially 2 months out until November 3rd, which is a big election for our community, for our state, and for our nation. And one of the things that I love doing is meeting and promoting amazing leaders from our community, particularly those leaders that want to run to represent our voice at every level of government, whether it is water board, school board, city council, state senate, congressional level, every level of government, because I think it's so important that the more informed you can be, the better decisions you can make. And today I am very excited to bring on a good friend of mine who is running for Santa Clarita City Council. I am actually supporting two amazing Republicans in the race for City Council on November 3rd. The first being our wonderful Mayor Cameron Smythe, and then our next to be councilman, Jason Gibbs. Jason, welcome.
Hey, Suzette, how we doing?
Good. You know what I love about you, Jason? You're, whether we're on camera here now or just in person, you're always just Jason, and you have such an amazing, attitude and aura. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. It's because if you look, wait, hold on, right here is a little handmade robot that my 3-year-old son made, and it's always smiling and waving at me when I'm ever sitting here in the office working. That's what makes me smile.
Oh, that's cute. Our children really do, make us smile. And you know what? So my daughter is 3, and thank the Lord he made her cute, because sometimes the things that she says and gets into can be so infuriating. And even when you're mad at them sometimes, isn't it amazing how you just can't help but chuckle and giggle and smile and try and not smile sometimes?
Well, Susan, especially with little girls, because my wife and I have a 2-year-old daughter, and that little thing has brought these beautiful bags that now sit under my eyes over the last 2 years. But I can't even get mad about it because they're absolutely precious. But they get away with everything.
I think especially little girls and daddies in particular, there's something there, because man, I thought my husband was going to be the disciplinarian. He comes from his dad is a former military, law enforcement. I have law enforcement in my family, very strict, routines, guidelines. I thought my husband was he is the biggest softie in the entire world when it comes to that little girl.
They get away with everything. It's not fair.
Which kind of brings me to Jason's story. Who are you? Who is Jason Gibbs? You're a family man, you're a husband, you're a dad, you live in Santa Clarita, but where did you grow up? What's your story?
It's kind of funny. A lot of times on the Facebook community pages and the chat, a lot of people ask, where did this guy come from? So it makes me smile a little bit because I grew up in Santa Barbara. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara. I graduated from a Catholic high school and ended up going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I majored in mechanical engineering. I loved school so much that I was there the better part of a decade. It took about 5.5 years to get my undergrad, and then after I graduated, I decided to go back and get a master's as well. But I was working full time to put myself through master's school, so it took 4 total years. So I tell everybody, Cal Poly, don't get me wrong, Cal Poly is beautiful, and San Luis is gorgeous, and the campus was great. But it ended up being a very good decision because in the very last term, before they were just ready to get me out anyways, I met who would become my wife, Chandra. And Chandra was a biomedical and electrical engineer up at Cal Poly. So she's actually what ended up bringing us down to Santa Clarita. So I've been working for 15 years now. I'm currently a principal and deputy director for a company called GP Strategies. We're a large engineering firm, and I specialize in mechanical integrity and pressure system design for the Delta IV and Atlas V rocket launch vehicles.
Oh, wow.
The short version is I get to play with rockets, and my job is to get them 2 inches off the ground, and after that, they're on their own. I just watch at that point. But
is that every 5-year-old little boy's dream?
I mean, I don't know what my dream was. I can tell you, a lot of people ask, how did you get into engineering? Did you like Legos? Did you like building things? I said, no, I was just a kid that loved biking around the town and playing basketball and playing baseball. And the two big reasons that I chose mechanical engineering, one was my dad told me one day, said, Jason, you're getting ready for school, for college in a couple of years. What is it you want to do? And I said, Dad, I've always loved marine biology. The irony being, I get so seasick, it's not even funny. But marine biology fascinated me. And he said, Jason, I'm going to tell you this. You can do whatever you want in life. But if you don't do engineering, I'm not paying for it. and I laughed. I said, well, engineering doesn't sound too bad. And then my oldest brother, the second big reason, my oldest brother, I'm the youngest of four, he was a mechanical engineer for about a year in the program and then had to switch out. And he claims it was because math was too hard. I think it was because it was at 7 a.m. and he was in college and not going to class. But I said, well, I'm going to do mechanical engineering because the youngest brother is going to upstage the oldest brother for once. So the motives weren't about being an astronaut, maybe, but it ended up being a great career. I've enjoyed it. And Chandra's what brought us to Santa Clarita. She's a biomedical engineer for Boston Scientific. And once she came down here, this was always her dream job. And I arranged it so I could relocate here. And this is where we started our lives and raising our family.
Well, that's that's an amazing story. And I think particularly in need in terms of our leadership. As you're well aware, aerospace and biomedical are two of the largest industries in our valley. So your understanding of this community and what we can do at the local level to promote job growth and promote these industries is so vital. But that does kind of bring me into, so I first met you a couple years ago, and I've been involved in the community for a long time. My first job was at Magic Mountain like 20 something years ago. I went to College of the Canyons. I worked for Congressman Buck McKeon. Like I know a lot of old familiar faces, and I just met you a few years ago. Then it's kind of like, when you buy a new car and you start to see that car everywhere on the street, it's kind of like the same thing. I've seen Jason everywhere because you're truly a proven leader in our community. What are some of the organizations, I know you ran for city council previously, but then I don't even know, where you have time to sleep.
No, and not too often. But fortunately, again, with my 2-year-old daughter, she doesn't sleep anyways. So I guess I just decided to be productive with that time. So I got involved. It was the birth of my son that really caused me to step up and say, I'm going to do something. I didn't know if it would be nonprofits or politics or something, but it was going to be getting involved in Santa Clarita. And so at the time, there was an appointment for a city council member when Dante Acosta was selected up to the assembly in 2016. And I'd never been to City Hall. I couldn't tell you who Bob Keller or Cameron Smythe or Lorene West, or I'd never met any of these people. But all it took was an application. And I said, you know what? There's no easier introduction to Santa Clarita than this. So I said, I'm just going to do it. So I showed up just along with everybody else. I think there was 50 of us or so. And I sat in the room with all these people who most I know now and just said, hey, I'm just here because I want to be involved and I want to lead. And that was the first night meeting all the council members. It's where I met Councilman Keller. And Councilman Keller had made a comment from the dais that, I really, really liked a few people that applied. And I was just one of the names that he mentioned. I'd never met Bob. We'd never shaken hands. And so he and Lorene both said, please reach out to us and please stay engaged to everybody who was there. And so I sat with Bob, and Bob just gave me kind of the story of, Jason, it's nice to see young, new family leaders that want to be involved. I said, I hope you'll stay involved. Please do. So I started writing for the paper. And then now today, I'm now sit on the executive board for the William S. Hart Wish Foundation. I sit on the advisory board for the Boys and Girls Club. I sit on the executive board for the Valley Industry Association. I'm the vice chair of Measure W Watershed Steering Committee here in LA County. I sit on the Measure EE Bond Committee. So any number of things. I decided that no matter what came across my desk, I was going to go do it. So every single nonprofit, big groups from Single Mothers Outreach to Family Promise to Santa Clarita Valley Grocery, you name it, I'm there. Even if it's just lifting bags up and handing food out, I was going to get involved. And so I've done that for about 3.5 years. And I think all of that has culminated into people saying, so this wasn't a guy that just showed up who thought it'd be fun to run for office and then disappear. I ran and didn't win and said, nope, this is just the beginning. I'm doubling down.
Yeah. Well, Thank you for that. I mean, it's so vital that people that want to represent our community understand the values of our community, are involved with our community. And what I think is so exciting about your candidacy, about our new Congressman Mike Garcia's representation, me running, is that Santa Clarita and the 38th Assembly District, which also includes Simi Valley, are really amazing communities. And I think people like my family left the Valley to come to Santa Clarita, and families leave to go to Simi Valley because they're run by fiscal conservatives at the city council level. They have great schools. You kind of get that small town suburban feel, and you're just right side of LA, which is a great job market. But these communities are growing, and they've been prosperous because of great leadership. But now it's time for that new generation, the next generation of leadership, to really continue the prosperity and continue to address some of the challenges that we're seeing come down from Sacramento, from Washington, that are affecting our community. So it's so vital, I think, and this is a perfect time for you with your family here in Santa Clarita to represent us. But what made you decide that? Whenever I talk to a candidate, when I decided to run, I had to dig deep as to why I wanted to run. And if you don't have that true, genuine why that really gets you past the late nights, the crazy schedule, the homesickness from missing your family, because you are sacrificing your family time to run. But what is your why, and what made you decide to run for office for city council in Santa Clarita in 2020?
Sure. There are a number of things that all culminated together. As I mentioned, the first one was just having children. It was that decision that your life and your world is a lot bigger than what it used to be, and you have a lot more important responsibilities. And for here locally, when I started getting involved in 18, the same thing you talked about. I mean, Santa Clarita is an incredible city. It has been extremely well run. It has been well managed. It's not partisan. You look at it and you think, if it's just Republicans running it, then how do we have all this wonderful open space? How do we have such a clean area, such a vibrant area, a place that's always growing, but everybody's moving to because of how wonderful it is and how great the school systems are? And when I saw people running in 18 who ran on this platform of, in my mind, negative, it was negative. Oh, the city did this, it's failing. It became very partisan, very ideological. And I sat back and said, what city are they talking about? They can't be talking about Santa Clarita. So I had a big concern because there was a number of people, again, it was the next generation, who had a very different mindset about what they thought Santa Clarita should and could be. And it didn't seem like it'd be a successful model in my mind. But I think the biggest thing for me that made me step up was I think you've heard this story. I lost my mom to cancer about 7 years ago now. And when you deal with someone who is losing cognitive function and getting ready to leave this world, you never forget what some of those last moments you have with them. And so I was always grateful that I got to be there and hold her hand when she left this world. But the last real conversation we had wasn't one of hope. It wasn't one of, I love you, thank you. It was, I'm so sorry for the world that we're leaving you. And it makes you think, for someone who's going to spend their literally their last breaths on this planet, to tell you they're sorry, it really struck me. I mean, it's something I will never forget and I will always talk about, but I vowed that I will never I always do what I can to make sure I don't have to say that. I will at least say I fought, I tried, I worked, I gave. It's gonna be that message. And I hope one day when it's my time, that I'll be able to look at my kids and my grandkids and say, I gave everything I had. Do the same. Because that's how you create a better world. That's how you create a better city, is you pass on positivity and work. Those are my whys.
I think, we have very similar whys. My mom went through a similar experience. 2018, she passed away. And I think it's vital that, that our representatives understand the entire spectrum of life, and I think understanding your experience, understanding my experience, it was a huge eye opener, my mom's end of life journey, and even my role in her end of life journey. I was her full-time caregiver. I was responsible for her advance directive. I was her power of attorney. I was literally fighting with health insurance bureaucrats the last 4 days of her life on hospice care. And it was this huge eye opener that we have a healthcare system that needs to really put families and patients first and offer more affordable choices. But for me, there are lots of things I think need to be done in healthcare. But for me, the bigger realization was there are so many families and so many children that are now taking care of their parents. And cancer for my mom was very, very, very quick. And there are people that are dealing with parents that have, and seniors that have Alzheimer's or other types of mental illness or disorders or cancers or on their end of life journey. And we really need people that understand that they're a part of our community, and we need to really invest resources for the end of the spectrum of life, which is some of the things that I'm going to be doing in Sacramento. Sorry to get so morbid on everyone here, but this is life, right? And I think it's important that those experiences leave impressions on you, and I really do think help mold your policy perspectives and how you can make your community better. So I appreciate that you share that story because I can resonate with it.
And it's like you said, it reminds you why you're here.
Yeah.
And it tells everybody why you're here, because that's what matters. It's not about personal interest. I mean, Suzette, bless your heart. I don't know a lot of people that think it'd be so much fun to be hanging out in California, Sacramento during 2020. It is not an easy place to be. It is partisan. It is tough. It is ideological, but it's worth fighting for.
Yeah.
And that's why we do this, because it's worth it.
This is home, and we're going to fight. And that kind of brings me to the current, healthcare crisis and situation, this pandemic, which has really changed all of our lives so much. And I mean, just from whether you're a parent and you're having to deal with school, whether, you're working from home or you're not working at all. But for a candidate, we've really had to learn how to adapt and campaign virtually. You've campaigned previously, how have you adapted, and what's the major difference for you running, 2 years ago and running now?
Well, I was very fortunate because I started running officially just after July 1st of 2019. Mm-hmm. So I hit the ground running at the 4th of July parade in 2019 and said, Jason Gibbs is coming back again. I mean, it feels like a century ago at this point, but that was the biggest one. I started early and said, I'm doing this and I'm serious. And so I was able to get out in front and start raising money and start getting name ID and continue my detailed work in a lot of nonprofits. So like you said, I was everywhere. And then COVID hit, but I felt like I was still everywhere. I mean, we're on a virtual Zoom platform now, but everything continues forward. Everything that you're doing for the Wish Foundation, that the Boys and Girls Club are doing, it doesn't matter that the facilities are closed and we can't be together. There's still need to continue raising money. There's still need to continue raising awareness. It's like you said, just because COVID hit, it doesn't mean that there's still not people fighting to get their cancer treatments, to get to the hospital, to get healthcare taken care of, to put food on the plates of their families. So we were very fortunate that we started early. The only thing that's kind of changed is I joke. I said a year ago, if I was running, everybody says, what's your platform? Well, we need to fix traffic and bring a Porto's bakery to Santa Clarita, because that's what everybody wants.
Yes, Porto's.
See, the Porto's overlays now, I'm telling you. But then COVID hits and traffic as a bifactor disappears because people aren't driving. We're all staying at home. People have gone virtual. I mean, there's still a desire for Portos, but they might not be able to be open right now. So it became they're looking for leaders to navigate and find ways to do what's best for the community. So I always said we're very fortunate that COVID has not ended up being what we all thought it would be. It's not the big doomsday that we all worried about in March, which is wonderful. Now, that doesn't mean anybody that's been affected by it or who's lost family to it. I understand that. We all understand that. But I feel like leaders need to come together and say, we can't just have a wait and see approach, because you can't just keep adding national debt. There's not enough bureaucracy or people able to give, the PPP funding, the SBA loans, all of this. We said it was available, but you have people hitting that button 12:01 midnight trying to get logged in and still weren't able to get in and get resources. So the reality is, I think we need to come back on. There are ways to do it and ways to do it safely. We need to take a much more direct approach into various industries. but they're looking for leaders to come out and say it, who are saying it sensibly and sensitively. I think it's a combination of both. So for me, it's turning us back on. It's finding our bearings again and continuing to do good things, because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But we just got to make sure that we're running to it and not trying to stall ourselves from getting there.
Right. And, you bring up some good points that I think are a great transition in that. So Santa Clarita was one of the hardest hit cities in the state. And really, people don't realize in the nation, I think it was 17th in the nation when it came to job loss, just by nature of the major industries and, commuter sprawl that we have in Santa Clarita. And we have to be ultra focused on bringing back good paying jobs, on getting people back to work, on incentivizing business, on being creative. And I think that we have seen, some creativity from our leaders at the city level that has allowed business to try and operate in the most devastating and uncertain of times. And I also think that there is more opportunities to be creative, but there's also, I think, this new revelation that, Santa Clarita isn't like, downtown. They're not even like the San Fernando Valley. And we are very different. I think that there is this realization that there should be greater opportunity for self-determination for the city, and for even autonomy outside of, what we've traditionally experienced as overlapping jurisdictions of government. So what would you like to accomplish, keeping in mind that it's about jobs and about how we can move forward Santa Clarita more effectively and focused in one of the most vital times for our community?
No, you're right. And I think our council has been pretty adamant about that fact. Without having the numbers in front of me, I think for a valley that you're talking about 250,000 people large, the number of positive tests was somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000. And the death rate was significantly lower than that. So there was this concern that we've been lumped in with Los Angeles County since we operate under the LA County Health Department directives, and say, look, we understand that as a county, perhaps the numbers are larger than we want to see, but you need to give us ability to say, look, thank God we haven't been hit as hard, but let us give us the opportunity to turn people on. So I think even the mayor's now talking about, we talked recently about a North County Health Department. There's even talk about a city health department. And I think we're moving that direction to have that discussion. We should have that discussion. My only fear is we still deal with, a political structure that goes higher than us. So who's to say if we put the time, the staff money, the effort, the resources into putting the palette together to say we can have the Santa Clarita Health Department, there's always a chance that if it gets bad enough throughout the rest of the state, that the governor or, much higher at that level could say, you know what, we're shutting it down again. And then it's no longer up to the health departments. So we'll put a lot of time, money, and effort into doing this because we're trying to help our businesses and we can still get knocked down. So that's why it's important all the way up and down the ticket that you're going to put people in Sacramento, in Washington, D.C., and in your local offices that are there for the right reasons. They're there to fight for you, to give you a chance, to let you pursue opportunity.
And I look forward, to being able to work with you and Cameron and the West of the City Council on Santa Clarita's self-determination. And I think that, as you mentioned, it is so important that we elect representatives that understand our community, that are from our community, that want to make it better, because there are too many Sacramento politicians and just politicians in general that are doing it for the wrong reason, that don't understand our community, why we've been so successful, and letting us control our own destiny. So, Jason, is there anything, I know there has to be some fun, strange fact about yourself that nobody can find on the internet. I know you're an open book, but how really of an open book are you? share some funny detail with us.
Man. Boy, you're really making me think.
I told you I wasn't going to give you a gotcha, but.
This is kind of a fun one. Let's see, a fun detail about me. I got significant sunburns in a tanning booth that was designed not to burn even the whitest of people. So no joke, my wife after we got married, she wanted to go to Bora Bora. And growing up in Santa Barbara, I would go to the beach when the sun went down. the red hair and the light complexion, that's just my life. And I said, okay, well, if we're going to Bora Bora, then I need to get some sort of color on my skin so that I don't just roast and be miserable. So I went to a tanning place and they had this new fancy bed where you put these little sensors on and detected how pale you were. And I think I was off the charts. But they said, look, you sit there for 20 minutes and the machine will automatically turn the UV lights off so that you don't burn. And I said, okay. So I went in there the first day and it turned on for like a microwave, about 8 seconds, turned off, and I was fine. And so I go in there the next day and the machine turns on, but it stays on for quite a while. And I remember lifting the little thing up and shouting to the lady outside. I said, hey, it's kind of been running for a while. She said, it'll turn off when it's ready. Well, I walked out of there and the eyes perked out of everybody in that room. I was scorched.
Oh, no, I do not have that problem. So.
I am jealous. I'll just say it. I can have envy.
That's a pretty, so we're going to call you Lobster Gibbs?
Sure. It's perfectly appropriate.
Your nickname.
The joke I came up with is I can sunburn in a spray tan booth.
that's pretty bad. So real quick, we've already, these go by so fast. It's always so fun to talk to candidates and community leaders. What are the top, 2 to 3 things you want to accomplish over the next 4 years, should you be so blessed to be elected by our community on November 3rd?
Sure. So real quickly, the first one that I've championed since 2018 is forming the Public Safety Commission here at City Hall, especially with what we have experienced in 2020. There is so much sensitivity now with Sheriff's Department and police forces and how they deal with the public, that I feel there's a real opportunity here in Santa Clarita. We can address these things openly, transparently, but smartly. It's not just emotions, not just jumping to conclusions. And I've wanted to do that since 18, and I think 20 has shown a real need for it. So that's one thing I've wanted. I'm still very fiscally conservative. I've often touted that the city has been very good about pension liabilities. I think that is the biggest #1 albatross that you are going to have to deal with in the assembly. CalPERS, in my view, is in trouble. Now, the city has been diligent, and I think the last number I saw was maybe 88, 89% funded. I'd like to see us as a city get fully funded, because if CalPERS lowers its actuarial return rates again, if they continue to stop putting in additional money, the money comes from somewhere. And they're either going to put the onus on the employees, or they're going to put that on the municipalities. So the closer we can get to being fully funded, the less liability we have and the more money we have available to continue to invest in Santa Clarita. And last but certainly not least is business. We have got to get businesses turned on, continue partnering with the EDC via the chamber to get businesses here, continue to expand where appropriate, continue building the commercial industry spaces that we've mapped out, and bring good paying jobs to Santa Clarita. There's a desire to get people off the roads and staring at a windshield, being able to work, live, and play here in Santa Clarita. I think still needs to be one of the #1 interests here in town.
Well, I'm looking forward to helping you, Jason. Thank you so much for coming on today. You can find out more information at www.electjasongibbs.com. It's actually scrolling there beneath the screen. But where else can people follow you, find you, to connect with you?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I haven't checked MySpace in a while, but maybe there's something there. We're everywhere. But real active on Facebook, and any local event here in town, you can find me there as well. I'm out in the public almost every day. I'm not hard to find. I'll be in the shade though, just so we're clear.
Nice to chat with you, Jason. Everyone, get out November 3rd and vote for Jason Gibbs for City Council.
Great. Thank you, Suzette.
So I hope you enjoyed meeting Jason. Isn't he's just an amazing candidate, and I can't wait till his leadership begins November 4th, or actually I think the swearing in is in December. But get out and vote November 3rd, less than 2 months away. We got a lot of work to do. If you want to volunteer on my campaign, please go to my website at Valaderis.com. We also have yard signs in. We got yard signs this week. Our big 4x8s are going to be popping up over the weekend in the community. But if you have not requested your yard sign, you can do so at my website, or you can send me a direct message on Facebook or even in this thread, and we will get in touch with you and hand deliver. I was actually out hand delivering signs today. So looking forward to connecting, guys. Have a great Labor Day weekend. Be safe, be healthy, and have fun.